Hello, all of you. So, we are here with yet another chapter, and our new chapter that we are going to discuss today is dividends. So, the first question that arises out here is, what do you mean by dividends? See, if I am talking about dividends, whenever a company is incorporated, company earns profit, right? Company earns profit. It might also incur loss, but company earns profit, right? That is what the company is for. If it is a continuous loss making entity, one day it will finally shut down, right? Company only continues if it is a profitable venture, right? So earns profits. Now this particular company has two choices to make. Either it can retain earnings in business for future growth, for future growth, or else this particular company may also distribute this earnings. Distribute this earnings. To whom is it going to distribute? To whom is it going to distribute? To the ones from whom you have taken this money, to the ones who are the owners of a company. See, if I am making profit, I have invested a sum of 50,000 into my boutique. Supposedly, I have invested a sum of 50,000 into my boutique and I got certain clothes, I sold them, and after selling of everything, what was left, I definitely will continue my business. That is not the point, but I made a profit of 50,000. What I can do is I can reinvest that particular amount into my business and expand it further, or I can take the money. That are the two options available. The same is happening with the company also. Now here only I was the proprietor because I had invested money in a company. We have a lot of people who have invested money who are known as shareholders. The ones who have contributed to the share capital of the company, right? So a company basically, when earning profit, has two choices to make. Either it can retain whatever it has earned in business for future growth or for expansion, or it can distribute its earnings. Now, how much to retain, how much to distribute, either to distribute everything or to retain everything, that is absolutely at the discretion of company. Companies Act does not mandate the distribution of dividend. It does not say that no, you have to give dividend. No, that is not so. But we have two types of capital. One is preference share capital and one is equity share capital, right? One is preference share capital and one is equity share capital. In preference share capital, you have a fixed rate of dividend and dividend to be distributed every year, right? But in equity share capital, the company has a choice to make. Whether it wants to give anything to the equity shareholders or not is company's choice. Then if it decides to distribute something, again, what percentage is again company's choice, okay? So Companies Act does not interfere in these things. However, Companies Act do have a lot of provisions relating to dividend covered under Chapter 8 of Companies Act 2013 and containing sections 123 to 127 and is read with Companies Declaration and Payment of Dividend Rules 2014. Is this clear? So that is the basic. Definition of dividend is given under section 2 clause 35 of the Act, which states that dividend includes interim dividend. Such a beautiful and short definition of dividend. Dividend includes interim dividend. So it is an inclusive definition. It does not define the meaning, but it just says that wherever you are using the word dividend and defining its provisions, it is as good as using the word interim dividend also, right? Because whenever you are saying dividend, it includes interim dividend. So any provision that is applicable for dividends, it is also applicable for interim dividends. Interim dividend is what? You have two types of dividends, right? Supposedly this is 1st April 2019. This is 31st March 2020. Okay, this is 31st March 2020. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is 30th, or you can say here also, say 30th September 2019. Let's say here is a date 15 August 2020. This was a date of AGM, and this is also a date of AGM. A date of AGM. Usually, students have a misconception that interim dividend means which is declared during the year, right? Which is declared during the year. That means whatever dividend is declared, say in between this particular area, that is going to be, I hope, that is going to be interim dividend. But that is not so. What is interim dividend? What is going to be interim dividend? The dividend which is declared between these two AGMs is going to be called as an interim dividend. The dividend declared between two AGMs. That means, do you understand what I am trying to tell you? Even if you're declaring dividend somewhere around here, right? Somewhere around here. That is maybe 30th April 2020, you are declaring dividend. For financial year 1920, it is interim dividend for that particular financial year. You are declaring here, it is possible. Do you get me? It is possible. Interim dividend is declared between two AGMs. It is nowhere written that it is declared in a particular financial year for that particular financial year. No, my dear, it is declared between two AGMs. That means even after end of a financial year, it can be declared for that particular financial year. Interim dividend at any point of time, it can be declared. Final dividend is declared at AGM. Final dividend is declared at AGM, that is at this particular date or at this particular date. You must have heard, you must have read a provision of ordinary business. I think it's not visible, right? Yeah, these colors are not visible. It is ordinary business. There are 4 items of ordinary business which are dealt at an AGM for sure, right? What are they? They are adoption of financial statements, adoption of financial statements. Then you have appointment of auditors, appointment of auditors. You also have appointment of directors, and lastly you have declaration of dividend. Declaration of dividend. These are the 4 options we have as an ordinary business. These are the 4 options. 4 options, that is the 4 ordinary business. And at every AGM, these 4 items of business are transacted for sure. That means at every AGM, it is going to be considered for sure. Whether you want to declare dividend or not, that is your choice. But this particular agenda will be there for sure. And whatever dividend you declare at an AGM is a final dividend. Is a final dividend. What is dividend, my dear? What is dividend? It is the return on investment. A shareholder has invested into a company, right, by buying the shares of a company. Now, whatever profit is being generated by the amount, by the money we as shareholders have invested into the company, that money is known as profits, and it can be distributed as dividend. It is not necessary to distribute as dividend. It is not mandatory to distribute as dividend. It can be distributed as dividend. Okay. So dividend is basically that part or that share of profit which is given to the shareholders, Is this clear? I hope this much part is clear. Okay. So dividend is if you go by the definition given under section 2 clause 35, it includes interim dividend. Okay, that is the first point. The second point that we have discussed is what do you mean by interim dividend? So it is something that is declared between two annual general meetings. Now we come to the third point. There are two types of dividend, final dividend and interim dividend. Who has the authority to declare these dividends? Interim dividend has no role. Interim dividend, there is no role of shareholders. Shareholders have no role to play in interim dividend. See, interim dividend, if the company is doing very good, supposedly the first quarter of the company made huge profits and we are expecting even more profits in the coming 3 quarters. So the board of directors decided that of course there are separate various factors which determine whether we want to declare dividend or not, which might include that whether you have adequate resources, whether you are short of money, whether you have adequate provisions of everything or not, is it not going to turn into liquidity, or is your company is going to remain solvent, right, if you are giving away a huge amount of dividend. So there are different criteria on which you decide whether you want to declare dividend or not. And when you're actually going for interim dividend, maybe you want to gain investors' confidence in your shares. You want people to know that yes, this particular company is performing very well, and when you give interim dividend, eventually what happens is the share prices also go up, right? So it is going to create a positive impact on your shares. But at the same time, you have to have that much resources to distribute, right? So cash availability, everything is required, because dividends have to be paid in cash only. That means through any banking channel or cash. It cannot be paid in kind, right? Now, where were we? Right. So when the company is making a lot of profits, board of directors might decide, okay, since the company is making a lot of profit out of the money that investors or shareholders have given to us, let us give them something in return. That is, what amount they have invested, we are going to give them a return on investment. Return on investment, if you invest into your bank account, you get some interest, right? Savings bank account, you get savings bank interest. That is what return on investment, right? So likewise, here also they have made an investment into equity of a company. They are getting something in return. Dividend is the return. Is this clear? So interim dividend is declared by the board and shareholders have no role in it. However, final dividend is first of all recommended by board and declared by members at an AGM. By passing an ordinary resolution. Dividend is recommended by board because shareholders cannot exactly, the company is being managed by the board of directors, right? Shareholders have some decision making powers because that has been reserved to them through Companies Act. However, the whole company is being managed by the board of directors only. So they are very well aware of what is going in the company, how much dividend should be declared, right? This is the maximum that we can, or this is something that should happen. So board actually recommends it. Now, what is important here to note is members may reduce the rate, but they cannot increase it. If the board has recommended that, okay, we are going to declare a dividend of 20% for the financial year 1920, shareholders have two choices. Either they can accept that rate or they can reduce that rate. They cannot increase it. They cannot say, no, I want a dividend of 25%. They do not have that right or power under Companies Act to say that. right? But yes, they can certainly say, no, 20% is too much. We think that we should invest some more amount because this expansion project is going on and funds might be needed there. So dividend may be reduced to 15%. So that is a suggestion that might come, and whatever suggestion comes, whatever deliberations happen, whatever discussions happen, after that voting is being done on a certain proposal, and if an ordinary resolution is passed, it is declared. Okay, so that is how it happens. Interim dividend, shareholders do not have to do anything with the rate. It is within the powers of board of directors to declare an interim dividend. However, final dividend, which is declared at an AGM, is recommended by board first and declared by members by passing ordinary resolution. Now, as I told you, a company earns profit, it has two choices to make, right? And if I talk about Section 8 company, surplus can only be used in promoting its objects. That means there is complete prohibition by, as we have discussed, this complete prohibition by Section 8 company. For Section 8 company, they are completely prohibited to distribute any dividend, any earnings to its members, because it is a not-for-profit organization. It is a non-profit making entity. Even if it generates some surplus, it cannot distribute the same to its members. It has to retain it and actually use it in promotion of its objects. Is that clear? So I hope so far things are clear. Okay. Now, let us first of all discuss interim dividend in a bit detail, and then we also have an illustration to discuss. The board of directors of a company, may declare interim dividend during any financial year or at any time during the period from closure of financial year till holding of the annual general meeting. That means, as I told you here, interim dividend, where is it? Right. Interim dividend, whenever you are declaring interim dividend, supposedly I want to declare interim dividend for this particular financial year. I can declare dividend in the whole financial year or even till AGM is held. Usually, I will tell you the fact, usually interim dividend is declared after close of financial year. Why? Because it may happen that in the first year we made huge profits, but the company is apprehensive whether this profit is going to recur, or maybe we can experience heavy losses in quarter 2. So company is not very sure, the board of directors are not very sure whether we should declare dividend or not, right? But at the end of the financial year, they are clear about the financial position, and they cannot wait till AGM. For some reason they do not want to, or they think that whatever is going to happen, we'll see it later, but immediately we want to declare dividend. So that is done through interim dividend at this particular point also. Now, what is the source? From where is it paid? Out of surplus and profit and loss account. So whatever surplus we have in profit and loss account, or what is the profit of that particular financial year, the profit of this particular financial year, whatever is standing as a credit in P&L account can be used to declare such interim dividend. And provided in case the company has incurred loss during the current financial year up to the end of the quarter immediately preceding the date of declaration of interim dividend, such interim dividend shall not be declared at a rate higher than the average rates of 3 immediately preceding financial years. What this particular point is trying to tell us is, supposedly this is 1 quarter, this is 2 quarter, this is 3 quarter, and this is 4 quarter. Right? After 2 quarters, board of directors decide to declare interim dividend. Now, these 2 quarters have suffered loss. Ma'am, when they have suffered loss, that means we have not generated any profits in the first 2 quarters yet. You want the company to declare dividend. Why will the company declare an interim dividend if it has incurred losses in the first 2 quarters? Well, yes, it can. Even in loss situation, it can declare dividend. Of course, it has its own priorities. Maybe the investors are losing confidence, the share prices are dropping. So for some reason, board wants to declare interim dividend even when it has incurred losses in the first 2 quarters. It has high prospects of making huge profits in the coming quarters. It has entered into some profit making venture which was still till now, but it has gained momentum in the 3rd quarter. So anything can happen and any situation can it be. We have to read what provision is there in Companies Act, right? But in this particular situation, even Companies Act is concerned and is thinking that if you have loss, that means you are going to declare dividend. You don't have any surplus generated in the first 2 quarters. That means you do not have any profits of the current financial year, of the financial year of which you are declaring interim dividend. No, you don't have. That means you are going to use the accumulated profits, the surplus that you have in P&L account, right? If you're going to use that and you're going to exhaust it all, it is going to be a matter of going to be a matter of real concern, right? So what Companies Act told, it is going to put a restriction. It has put a restriction. Check the dividend which has been declared in last 3 years. In last 3 years. That is this preceding financial years. 3 financial years. Supposedly the rate was 10%, 10% and 10%. So the average also comes out to be 10%, 10 plus 10 plus 10 divided by 3. Average comes out to be 10%, right? Now, if board wanted to declare an interim dividend of say 15%, board cannot. In case it has incurred loss. In case it has not incurred loss, then it can declare even 15%. So this condition is applicable only when it has incurred loss. Is this clear? This condition is going to be applicable only when it has incurred loss. So that is about interim dividend. We have an illustration. Let's have a quick, these are called as case studies. PET Limited is a company which has incurred loss in business up to current quarter of financial year 17-18. The company has declared dividend. These are the past 3 dividends that we have available. In spite of the loss, Board of Directors have decided to declare interim dividend at the rate of 15% for the current financial year. You have to examine the decision of this particular company, that is PET Limited, stating the provisions of declaration of interim dividend. So we are not right now going to state the provisions and everything, but we can definitely decide about the validity. Now, if it is 12 plus 15 plus 18 divided by 3, which actually comes out to be 45 by 3, that is 15% only, right? So maximum rate of dividend that you can declare is 15%, and the board is proposing to declare a dividend of 15% only, right? That means the rate of dividend shall not exceed average rate of dividend during 3 financial years. The decision of board to declare interim dividend is valid because it is well within the limit. You could not have declared more than 15%. Till 15% you can declare. It cannot exceed 10%. The average rate, it cannot. In case of loss in the immediately preceding quarters, the interim dividend, the rate of interim dividend cannot exceed the average of 3 years of dividend. I hope this is absolutely clear, right?